I welcome you to my channel. Subscribe and listen to my new stories every day. It was an ordinary Tuesday evening when my life took an unexpected turn. Mary, my wife of 7 years, had been more distant lately, but I chalked it up to stress from her new job. We were sitting in the living room, the TV chattering in the background, each of us engrossed in our phones. A simple glance at her screen as she texted would have been innocent, had I not seen the quick, guilty way she tucked her phone away when I looked up. Later that night, as Mary showered, curiosity overcame me. Her phone, usually guarded like a treasure, lay unattended on the bedside table. My hands trembled slightly as I picked it up, the passcode a familiar anniversary date. The call history opened easily, revealing a list dominated by a number I didn't recognize. It appeared repeatedly, at all hours of the day. Confusion and a rising sense of betrayal mixed in my gut. I dialed the number without hesitation. A few tense rings later, a male voice answered, edged with surprise. "Hello," he said. "I'm Mary's husband," I stated, my voice steadier than I felt. "Who are you?" There was a pause, a hitch of breath. I didn't know she was married." His shock mirrored my own, a realization dawning bitter and cold. The conversation that followed was a blur of denial and harsh truths, ending with my slamming the phone down with a force that cracked the screen. I confronted Mary as soon as she stepped out of the bathroom, her hair still wet, a towel wrapped around her. The scene that unfolded was one of chaotic fury and shattered illusions. Accusations flew, and her tears did nothing to dampen the rage burning within me. "I trusted you," I yelled, the pain sharp and raw. "It was just a mistake," she sobbed, her usual composure shattered. "It meant nothing. But the damage was done. I couldn't unhear the lies or unsee the deceit. The trust we had built over the years crumbled in a matter of minutes." Sleep was a stranger that night, and by morning, my decision was clear. The following weeks were a whirlwind of lawyers and bitter arguments. Divorce papers replaced love letters. Our home, once filled with laughter and shared dreams, echoed with the hollow sounds of division. In a final twist, as I moved out, I overheard a conversation she had on another borrowed phone, still pleading with the man who hadn't known she was married. My heart hardened, the plan for revenge took root. If she thought the divorce was the end, she was mistaken. I would make sure we never crossed paths again, but not before she understood the depth of my betrayal. The intrigue of my plan, hidden in the shadows for now, would unfold in time, a revenge as calculated as it was cold. The coolness of the early morning did nothing to soothe the turmoil inside me. As the sun rose, casting long shadows over the city, I found myself outside the cafe where Mary often met her friends for brunch. My mind raced with the remnants of last night's revelations and the simmering plans for retribution. Determined, I pushed open the cafe door, the familiar jingle mingling with the murmur of conversations. I scanned the room, my gaze landing on Mary, laughing carelessly with a friend, her betrayal momentarily tucked away behind a facade of normalcy. The sight fueled my resolve. I approached her table, each step measured and firm. Her laughter died as she caught sight of me, her expression flickering from surprise to fear. "John, what are you?" "I need a word," I interrupted, not bothering to hide the edge in my voice. "Outside. Now." She hesitated, glancing at her friend before nodding and rising, following me out into the crisp air. We stood away from the curious eyes of the cafe patrons, the morning suddenly feeling colder. "John, I'm sorry, I..." "Save it, Mary," I snapped, cutting her off. "I'm not here to listen to more lies. I want to know everything. How long has this been going on?" She bit her lip, a nervous habit she had when cornered. "A few months," she confessed, her voice a whisper. "It started when I changed jobs. It didn't mean anything. It was just..." "Just what?" "Exciting. New." I spat the words, my heart clenching at the confirmation of the duration of her deceit. Yes, but. No buts, Mary. You made your choice, and now you'll live with the consequences. I turned to leave, but her next words stopped me. What are you going to do? There was genuine fear in her voice now. You'll see. Just remember, you brought this on yourself. With that, I left her standing there, the morning sun doing nothing to warm the chill between us. Later that day, I met with an old friend, Mike, who worked in cybersecurity. Over coffee, I laid out my needs, explaining enough of the situation to gain his assistance without diving into the emotional depths. I need access to her emails, social media, everything. Can you do it? I asked, pushing a piece of paper across the table with all her details. Mike looked at me, his expression serious. John, you sure you want to go down this path? I've never been more certain of anything, I replied, my jaw set. All right, I'll help you. But remember, whatever you find, you can't unsee. I have to know, Mike. I have to know everything. He nodded, understanding the desperation that drove my actions. Give me a couple of days. I'll get you what you need. As I left the cafe, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Mary. Please, let's just talk. We can fix this. I stared at the message, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. There was no fixing this. Not now. The path I had chosen was clear, and with each step, the plan for revenge crystallized further. The stage was set, and soon, Mary would face the full extent of the consequences of her betrayal. The intrigue of my vengeance was only just beginning to unfold. The next few days were a blur of tension and anticipation as I waited for Mike to deliver. I busied myself with work, using the monotony to stifle the turmoil inside. When my phone finally buzzed with a message from Mike, my heart skipped a beat. It was done. I had the keys to unlock all her secrets. Meet me at the park in an hour. Bring your laptop, Mike's message read. I grabbed my things and headed out, feeling a mix of dread and determination. At the park, Mike was already there, sitting on a bench with a laptop open in front of him. I sat down beside him, and without a word, he slid the laptop towards me. I've installed everything you need here, he said, pointing at the screen which displayed folders labeled with different apps and services. You've got access to her emails, chat logs, social media, everything. Thanks, Mike, I said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside. How do I? Just click on each folder. Everything's logged and time-stamped. I hesitated a moment, my hand hovering over the mouse. Then, with a deep breath, I clicked on the first folder. Emails. As I started reading, the depth of her deception became painfully clear. Love letters, hotel bookings, even photos. It was all there, every sordid detail. I felt sick to my stomach, but I couldn't stop. I moved on to text messages, social media messages, each click a further stab into the heart of our marriage. Mike sat beside me, silent, giving me the space to face the reality of my wife's betrayal. Can you print these? I finally asked, my voice hoarse. Sure, he nodded, pulling out a small, portable printer and connecting it to the laptop. As the documents printed, the physical evidence of her infidelity piled up beside me, each sheet a weight in the case against her. With the stack of papers in hand, I left Mike and drove straight to where Mary worked. I stormed into her office, unannounced. The look on her face when she saw me was a mix of fear and surprise. John, what are you? I slammed the papers on her desk, each one fluttering like a slap in her face. You wanted to talk. Let's talk about this. She picked up the papers, her hands trembling as she looked through them. Tears started to roll down her cheeks. John, Save it. I cut her off. I know everything. There's nothing you can say that will change what you did. The office was silent except for the sound of her crying. Co-workers peeked in, their eyes wide with shock. Mary looked around, her humiliation complete. "This is why we're done, Mary. I wanted you to know that I know the full extent of your betrayal. Our divorce will be finalized soon, and then you'll be out of my life for good." With that, I turned and left her there, surrounded by the evidence of her deceit, her sobs echoing behind me. As I walked out of her building, a sense of cold satisfaction settled over me. The revenge was harsh, but it was just. What remained now was to finalize the divorce and rebuild my life from the shards of this betrayal. The plot of my retribution had unfolded, yet the peace I expected to feel was overshadowed by a lingering sadness. The next chapter would be about recovery, for my heart still needed to mend from the ruins of a love I thought would last a lifetime. The air was heavy with the scent of impending rain as I stood outside the courthouse, the final decree of divorce in my hand. My heart, a hollow pit, felt neither relief nor joy, only the somber weight of a chapter closed in the coldest of ways. The document was a testament not just to the end of a marriage but to the obliteration of a partnership I once held dear. As I walked away, my phone buzzed. It was a message from a private investigator I had reluctantly hired in a final bid to expose every last shred of Mary's deceit. The message was brief: "Meet me. There's more you need to see." Curiosity and a dark drive for further vengeance propelled me to our meeting spot, a dimly lit coffee shop that seemed a fitting backdrop for the murky truths of my once bright life. The investigator slid a folder across the table before I even sat down. "You're not going to like this," he warned. Opening the folder, I found photographs and documents not just of Mary, but of her accomplices, friends I had trusted, colleagues I had respected. They all knew. They had all lied to my face, even facilitated her betrayal. Rage, cold and sharp, cut through me. The investigator's voice was a distant echo as he detailed the depth of their involvement. My mind was already racing, plotting retribution. They had all played me for a fool, and they would regret it. I spent the next days in a blur of preparation, pulling strings and setting traps with meticulous care. My revenge would be legal but ruinous. I used every contact, every favor I was owed in the business world to ensure that those who betrayed me would find their careers in shambles. Leaked scandals, hinted frauds, nothing illegal, but enough to poison their well of opportunities. Then came the night of the grand reveal. I invited them all to a supposed reconciliation dinner, under the guise of letting bygones be bygones. The luxury private dining room was a stage for the final act of my vengeance. As they arrived, confusion clear on their faces, I stood to greet them not with a smile, but a cold stare. "Thank you for coming," I began, my voice steady, the room suffused with unease. "I wanted to offer you all one last chance to confess before I show you the real reason we're here." One by one, they shuffled, murmured, some attempting apologies, others defiant. But I had no interest in their words anymore. "You see, each of you played a role in this deceit. And each of you will face consequences." I revealed the investigations, the photos, the proof of their complicity in Mary's affairs, the irrevocable damage to their reputations and careers already set in motion. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. Accusations flew, relationships crumbled, and the room became a cacophony of chaos. I watched, a silent observer to the destruction, feeling no satisfaction, only the emptiness of revenge. Mary, who had remained silent, finally spoke, her voice cracking. "John, was this worth it? Destroying everything, everyone, including yourself?" Her words struck a chord, but it was too late. "It was justice, Mary," I replied, the bitterness in my voice surprising even me. As the evening ended, they left, one by one, enemies now where they had once been friends and lovers. I remained alone in the aftermath, the weight of my actions heavier than the evening's rain pounding against the windows. In seeking revenge, I had indeed laid waste to my betrayers. But as I sat there, the last man standing in a war of my own making, I realized the tragic truth: in my quest for vengeance, I had lost myself too. Mary was gone, my friends were gone, and the man who walked out of that room was a stranger even to himself, forever changed by the hatred of betrayal.